City Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Alderman Grover.
Here.
Alderman Rainey.
Here.
Alderman Burris.
Here.
Alderman Fisk.
Here.
Alderman Braithwaite.
Here.
Alderman Nguyen.
Here.
Alderman Wilson.
Here.
Alderman Holmes is absent. Alderman Tyndall.
Here.
8-0.
We have a quorum. Welcome to the Monday, April 25th meeting of the Evanston City Council. The mayor's proclamations for this meeting are that it is Municipal Clerks Week, May 1st through 7th, 2011. It's Older Americans Month, May 2011, and National Public Service Week, May 1st through 7th, 2011. And do we have a presentation?
Yes, we've
and we have a presentation of Evanston Public Service Awards.
You join?
I am joining you.
Members of the council, good evening. As part of our observance of National Public Service Week, I'm very pleased this evening to make presentations to our employees with 25 years of service, 30 years of service, and 35 years of service. We have several employees at these categories who are not here with us this evening, so I would like to quickly recognize them in the category of 25 years of service. James Merzin, a water plant operator with our utilities department. Carolyn Wharton, 25 years with our Parks, Recreation, and Community Services department. Lorraine Stringfellow with the library department, 25 years. Deputy Chief Barb Weedland from the police department, 25 years. Maida Figueroa from the health department, 25 years. Catherine Thompson, an executive secretary at the police department, 25 years. Tom Gunther, police commander for 25 years. William Dobby from the Public Works Department, 30 years. John Scripp, a police officer who just retired, 30 years of service. Madonna Grove, a police officer with 30 years of service. Scott Hargraves, a firefighter paramedic with the fire department, 30 years of service. And 4 employees with 35 years of service who unfortunately could not be here with us this evening. Perhaps that's something you learn after 35 years of service. Thomas Devine, a police officer, Noel Kirsch with the library department, Michael Adam, a fire captain paramedic, and William Betke, a fire captain, all with 35 years of service. Perhaps we can give them a round of applause. We do have several of these employees with us here this evening. We'll start with the 25 years of service. Patrick Leahy, a water service worker from our utilities department, 25 years of service. Also with 25 years of service, Gerald Franklin from our Public Works Department. Mr. Franklin. Next up, from the fire department, Norman Henderson, firefighter paramedic. Another member of our fire department, Greg Kleiber, the fire chief, 25 years of service. Another department director, Dave Stonebeck, our director of utilities, 25 years of service. We now move on to those employees who have served with the City of Evanston for 30 years. Our first employee with 30 years of service, Janice Brown, from the Department of Parks, Recreation, and Community Services. Also with 30 years of service from the fire department, Wayne Coleman. Next, from our Administrative Services Department with 30 years of service, Kathy Brown.
And she took the stairs to get here after all that.
Also from our Administrative Services Department, Patricia Ford, 30 years of service. Our next employee with 30 years of service just couldn't serve in one department, had to serve in two departments, and that's Ricky Voss from our Administrative Services Department. Thank you. Congratulations. Before we go on to our final recognition of the evening, let me just show you what we've been handing out. We have 4 employees with 25 years of service or more, a lovely City of Evanston pin. Gold pin that has a stone in it for various years. We consulted, I think, the official Municipal Government Recognition Association to get the right stone. So I think this is the 35-year pin. So this is an emerald, or a facsimile emerald, or something really close to an emerald. In addition, we also provide our employees with 5 years or more an option to pick their own gifts. So if you're at 5 years, 10 years. 5 years you get a certificate. 10 years you get the Magic Catalog plus a certificate. The same thing with 15 years, and then at 25 years you start getting pins. So we started the pins a couple of years ago for that. So we're on to our last employee, 35 years. Think of what the world was like 35 years ago. Alderman Rainey, I don't believe you were on the council yet. So 35 years. There were 18 aldermen 35 years ago. I'm sorry, you were watching the council. You were watching. They were the Tintype movies, right? 35 years ago. Oh, you were there watching. Okay. So lots has happened in 35 years. Lots of people that this individual has served faithfully representing the city of Evanston. I'm very pleased to introduce Roy Connolly from our Parks, Recreation, and Community Services Department. 35 years of service. And I think you should speak too. Every 35 years, if you like.
Every 35 years. Well, as unaccustomed as I am of public speaking, I will say a few words. Like they were saying, things were a lot different back then. When I started, we had one computer in the city, and it took up the whole room, and it was about the computing power as that phone over there. The office was really simple. All you needed was a couple of plugs and some lights. Now, I tell you, it's been a real challenge keeping up with technology, but we've tried. We've done the best we could. But I appreciate this award. I do want to accept this award in honor of my mentor, the late Harold Kyle Sr. Without him, without his teaching and patience, a lot of patience, I wouldn't be here today. So thank you.
City Manager, do you have announcements and presentations?
Yes, Madam Mayor.
Madam Mayor, members of the council, two items. First, I've put at your places this evening a flyer regarding a community engagement initiative that we're going to be starting next week, May 1 through 7, called Engage Evanston. We're doing this in order to reach out to the community to get ideas, thoughts, suggestions for our 2012 budget process. We're asking residents to reach out to us in multiple ways. They can go on our website, cityofevanston.org/engage. They can call us with their suggestions to 311. They can give us their ideas on Facebook, on Twitter. They can email us at info@cityofevanston.org. And they can mail things to us at the City Manager's Office, 2100 Ridge Avenue, Evanston, Illinois, 60201. We will be getting word out through the media over the next several days about this initiative. Several events of note next week. First, there will be a community meeting here in the council chambers next Thursday evening at 7 p.m. To talk about the process, to receive input from the community. We also will be hitting the road, and we will be going out to various parts of the community to solicit input. On Sunday, May the 1st, we'll be at Fleetwood Jourdain at the Children's Day event from 2 to 4. We will be at the Davis Street L and Metro stations on May the 2nd from 4 to 7. We'll be at the Jewel Food Store on Chicago Avenue from 12 to 2 on May the 2nd. We'll be at the North Branch Library on May the 3rd from 12 to 2. We will be at the Dominic's at Dempster Dodge from 3 to 5 on May the 4th. We will be at the main library on May the 4th from 12 to 2. The Levy Center on May the 5th from 12 to 2. That will also be the date, Thursday, May the 5th, of our budget workshop. We will be at the Robert Crown Center from 3 to 5 on Friday, May the 6th. And we will be at the Farmers Market, the first of the season, on Saturday, May the 7th from 10 a.m. To 12 p.m. That's the Farmers Market downtown. So would encourage folks to either come meet us at one of these locations, to reach out to us in a variety of ways. There's additional information on the website that would help inform people's questions and discussions, and we really want to hear from folks as we move forward with the preparation of our 2012 budget.
Thank you. Alderman Rainey?
Madam Mayor, I would really appreciate it if another location could be added that is south of Oakton. The only location is Levy Center, and there are just thousands of people that go to the Jewel on Howard Street or to the CVS on Howard Street or to the Target on Howard Street, and I would like us to reach out to more people in South Evanston.
Great. We'll add the Jewel on Howard Street.
Or some other place.
Very good.
I'm not fixed on that. Thank you.
Next, Madam Mayor, members of the council, as you know, the city has partnered with Downtown Evanston over the last several months to look at options for the future use of the Varsity Theater. Carolyn DeLutri, the executive director of Downtown Evanston, is here this evening to report and to introduce a consultant that has been working with Downtown Evanston on this subject.
Thank you, City Manager Bobkowitz and Madam Mayor and members of the City Council. We are pleased to be here tonight in front of you. As you know, last year in August, Downtown Evanston approached the city in regards to a study to be done for the Varsity Theater project, and you had approved a grant from the TIF funds to support this. And so the committee and some of the members are here tonight, and I also know they're also watching this meeting tonight via computer, now that you can do that live streaming on the internet as well because they're out of town. But I know Steve Rogan's here, Joan Gunsberg is here, Penny Rothheiser from the Arts and Business Committee, and I don't know if there's others, and Sarah Shostak is from the Evanston Community Foundation here tonight, and Alderman Judy Fisk is on our task force as well. But we are here tonight. Previously at the Economic Development Committee meeting, I had given some updates on findings from Kennedy Smith and the Clue Group, and tonight she's here to do a brief presentation with some of what she has learned about the project and where we're going in the future, and that this portion of the project is going to be coming to an end, and so we'll be looking towards the next steps. So I present to you Kennedy Smith from the Community Land Use and Economics Group.
Thank you. Happy to be here with you tonight. I understand, Alderman Rainey, that you have some firsthand experience with the Varsity Theater, yes? The oldest person. This project has been a great one I've really enjoyed. My orientation, my background is in downtown economic development. I worked with the National Main Street Center for 19 years. And so I've looked at this project from that perspective, really, of although it, in a sense, has something to do with the Varsity Theater and finding any use for it, what it really is about is finding ways to use the arts, and performing arts in particular in this case, to be more effective as an economic catalyst for downtown Evanston and for the community, and then figuring out what the role of the Varsity might potentially be in that process. And through this whole process, I've been focused on trying to identify potential win-win solutions for all the different parties and partners that play a role in this, or potentially play a role in this, for downtown Evanston, looking at how to use the arts as an economic catalyst for downtown growth. For the city, looking at ways to strengthen the community's cultural amenities and stimulate economic development, but without spending very much money. I am mindful of the city's fiscal constraints. For the owner of the property, how to use the building for community benefit, but without losing an important source of income. And for performing arts groups in the community, how to find affordable space with attractive amenities for their patrons. And so in focusing on what, how can we maximize the win for each group, I think we've come up with some ideas. The process that we've gone through over the past few months has involved some market research, looking at what kind of market demand there might be for performing arts here. Conducting interviews with 20 or 25 different representatives of performing arts groups, community organizations, city staff, property owners, a broad range of different interests. And also bringing in some specialized experts to take a look at the district and the theater building and give me some feedback on this process and on some of the questions that have come up. I'm going to just give you a brief sort of profile of some of the findings that we've come across, some of the observations that we've made, and some of our recommendations, and we'll be summarizing this in a report for the task force within the next couple of weeks, and then finalizing that for use by the community shortly after that. One of the things that we have discovered is that the Chicago area, of course, has an abundance of performing arts groups, but Evanston is truly unique in having a very high concentration of performing arts groups, organizations that provide training. Lots of emerging performing arts groups. When I worked at the National Trust for Historic Preservation, I was the National Trust's representative to the board of the League of Historic American Theaters for about 5 years. And I've worked with lots of historic theaters around the country and seen how communities program those theaters for use. And it's very rare that I would say that I've seen a community that has the concentration of emerging arts organizations and training organizations that Evanston has. I think it sets you apart in the world of performing arts across the country. Oddly, given that, downtown Evanston has no performing arts facility, active performing arts facility. Also very, very unusual for a community of this size. I cannot think of many communities of Evanston's population size that don't have a performing arts facility downtown. There's enormous need for a performing arts facility to better serve the community's performing arts organizations and emerging organizations. There's enormous need in terms of downtown economic development for there to be a performing arts center there. I have found over the years that performing arts facilities in general, but performing arts in particular, fill a very important void between a downtown having a daytime worker population, a 9-to-5 worker population, and really making the transition to having a 24/7 population of downtown residents. It's filling those evening hours with the activity that takes place in a performing arts center and the spin-off activity in restaurants and businesses that stay open to cater to those patrons that really begin to boost the economic power of a district and grow it significantly. There appears to be ample market and consumer demand to support performing arts in Evanston. So good signs all around. There really is a great fertile environment for a performing arts center. The arts are a significant economic generator in Evanston. Always difficult to measure. It's not as clear-cut as, you have a building that's worth X amount of money and you're going to generate Y amount of property tax revenue from it, or a business is going to sell this and you're going to get revenue. It's harder to discern what the impact of the arts is, but from all the indicators that we've examined, it appears to be a very significant part of Evanston's economic development path. Should the community decide to create a performing arts center in the downtown, probably at the Varsity, it'll be important that its rehabilitation or construction be debt-free or as close to debt-free as possible. In order for performing arts facilities to really work well, you want performing arts organizations to focus on what they do best, which is performing arts, not on real estate development and management, and you want to have that facility launched debt-free, hopefully even with an operating endowment to begin to cover operating and capital improvements expenses. This would be essentially a historic preservation project, and raising money for historic preservation is very different than raising money for performing arts. There are lots of people out there who support the preservation of historic buildings who would contribute to a project like this who may not be contributors to performing arts right now. So there's a potentially large untapped constituency of donors and supporters that you may have for the rehabilitation of this historic building. Two findings that I really wanted to highlight among all others, and I've already mentioned these. The first is that performing arts must have a stronger presence in downtown Evanston. From the perspective of the performing arts groups themselves, they could be kind of neutral about where there might be a performing arts facility in Evanston, but that's not true for the downtown. It really is critical to bring that activity downtown because of the spin-off benefit that it will have for the entire community. And the second is that Evanston's role as an arts incubator is, in my opinion, an untapped asset, something that truly sets Evanston apart and could become sort of the central core of a marketing message about what distinguishes Evanston in the community development world and in the performing arts world. The different options that we've looked at in the course of our research are option one, looking at reusing the upper floor of the varsity above the ground floor shops. The second is looking at the whole varsity building, which would, probably involve having to, swap the ground floor space with space comparable space someplace else. And third, looking at another downtown site. If it just didn't line up for the varsity, are there other sites in the district that might be appropriate? And we've drawn on research that's been done earlier. In the late 1990s, architectural firm Hollibird and Root did some drawing, some schematics where they preserved a big chunk of retail space here on the ground floor and created sort of an alley going back from Sherman to the back alley that would then have office space, performance, practice area, storage. Another scheme that they did where they instead grouped the retail at the front of the building and had the stage house begin to open up here in the back. We also had an architect come in to just give us a quick assessment of, has anything really changed radically in the past 15 or 20 years that we should know about? He concluded, no, the building looks, structurally sound, no problems there. And he proposed another option, which would be sort of carving out a little hallway out of the two storefronts, potentially with glass here, so that the stores themselves become part of the theater experience, and this becomes the entrance then to an upper floor. So lots of options there for making the building work as a performing arts facility, should the community decide to go forward. We also looked at financing, like how would we pay for this? And I've made three assumptions in looking at financing for it. The first is that performing arts groups can't, especially emerging performing arts groups, can't afford to pay market rate rents. The city can't afford to subvent performing arts groups. And the type of programming that might be able to pay market rate rents, if you got in, very popular, big-name entertainers at high-ticket prices, that doesn't really meet the community's goals as an arts incubator, so that's not really a good option. Those are the three things I've kind of kept in mind. And you have some existing tools in place, both at the city level and at the federal level, things like tax increment finance, federal historic rehab tax credits, and federal new markets credits, which downtown Evanston is eligible for, private fundraising, and tax abatement. And then there are other tools that other communities have used, some federal grant programs, ticket surcharges to raise money, energy tax credits, CDBG funds. We've concluded that almost all of this could be paid for by the private sector, that we think that there's enough of a market here to support private sector contributions to cover the rehab cost. So I know this may come as a shock, but I don't think we're going to be asking you for money. Our recommendations, just a few that I've pulled out, are to try to do this within the next 5 years, to really create this and make it happen. There have been attempts to create a performing arts center in downtown Evanston in the past. It really is time to move forward. The moment is ripe for the community's economy. With the upper floor of the varsity rehabbed and turned into a performing arts facility, in terms of space allocation, you could probably have that become the home to a couple of performing arts groups, as well as providing some flexible space for other groups that need space on a part-time basis or that are beginning to emerge. And there are lots of examples of communities that have done this, from Pasadena, California, and its Playhouse District, to Abingdon, Virginia, a tiny little town with a theater that's become a major catalyst for economic development there. We think it's important to make the arts a more explicit part of the community's economic development strategy. In the interviews that I've conducted, I have heard a lot of really, really great things about the economic development team that the city has built recently. People have a high level of confidence in it, and I think that it would be an important planning activity to make the arts a more important, a more central component of economic development planning, and an important gesture to move the Arts Council into the Department of Community and Economic Development. We think that it would be a good idea to create a nonprofit organization that can be in charge of raising money for the rehabilitation of the building and for managing the building for the performing arts groups. Again, letting them focus on what they do best and letting someone with a background in preservation development do what he or she does best. Even before this Performing Arts Center is here, we recommend bringing performing arts into public spaces in the downtown area so that the public begins to see that this is really an important part of the community. And lots of fun examples. This is something from a neighborhood in Seattle where an artist embedded bronze dance steps with instructional arrows in the sidewalk. So you walk along, you see this, you do a little foxtrot, and you move on. This is a community where they put audiences inside storefronts and had the entertainers on the outside entertaining them. A community that had a video artist videotape people in the community telling stories about their lives and then projected these onto architectural elements in the downtown so that it seemed like the buildings themselves were coming alive with the stories of these communities. We think that that can begin almost immediately to begin to really enliven the experience of being in downtown Evanston. We recommend making this ad hoc task force permanent so that it can help steer this process until the Performing Arts Center is realized. And our report that we're going to be presenting to you is going to break down some of these steps in very fine detail so that you really do have kind of an action plan for moving forward and distributing the things that need to happen to a very broad range of potential partners in the community. I will pause here. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to talk with you, but I also don't want to monopolize all your time. Thank you.
Alderman Grover. Thank you, Madam Mayor, and thank you, Ms. Smith. I'm really impressed with the report, and I find it very encouraging that we have this potential for an arts district in Evanston. I have a couple questions. We have all of these wonderful arts groups. Do you see good potential for collaboration among them to be part of the driving force towards an arts district in downtown Evanston?
Yeah, and I think that the process of bringing them together, just as has happened at the Noise, is going to cultivate more interaction and more exciting dynamic things.
In your experience, are arts districts, do they need to be contiguous, or can an arts district include disparate buildings that are separated by a block or two, and we could still call it an arts district?
Yeah, I mean, the important
work?
thing is to create the linkages so that people know what to do. But doing things like performing arts on the streets and, you know, the bronze dance steps, for example, things that can like physically link people and show them the connection will help them move around, and that'll be good for business throughout the district also.
And if you can characterize the potential for private support of this undertaking. You've mentioned that there's untapped potential in our historic preservation community, and I think our arts groups are probably already finding that they've raised as much money as they can in this environment right now. But help me understand where you see the potential.
Yeah. Well, again, it's a difference in people who are likely to support performing arts versus those who are likely to support historic architecture. And there certainly is some overlap in those groups, but they are very different. There are foundations that support historic preservation that probably have no interest, or, you know, they have interest, but they don't invest their resources in performing arts groups. So I think that it's likely not to be a group in the community that has been tapped significantly in the past. And as I say, there are also foundations there that might be interested in it. If you were able to get historic rehabilitation tax credits and new markets credits for the project also, then those can be turned into cash by partnering with a tax credit investor who could then invest cash in the project. So, and that's something that wouldn't be a possibility for a performing arts organization.
And what kind of infrastructure is required? Because we already have a downtown, we already have parking capacity, we would not be looking to make dramatic improvements to our streetscapes, except if we want dance steps embedded in them, or adding additional parking. What other types of infrastructure needs do you see our downtown as having to support an arts district?
I don't think that you have significant needs. You have parking garages, you have structured parking. The hours at which performing arts activities are likely to take place don't significantly overlap with daytime worker population, so there's the opportunity for shared parking. And one of the most important assets that you have in place in terms of business infrastructure is the business community that's here that could use the additional sales of having more patrons on the street in the evening.
Love it. Thank you.
Are there any other questions? Thank you very much. I think you explained it very well.
Thank you.
Really appreciate it.
And Madam Mayor, members of the council, we will continue to work with downtown Evanston as the final report is received, and we'll keep the council posted as this project moves forward. And that concludes my reports.
Thank you. City Clerk, do you have communications?
No communications this evening, Madam Mayor.
All right. Next on the agenda is citizen comment. Mike Vasilko is first, then Junad Risky, and Ms. Rayo is ceding her time to Padma Rayo. Go ahead, Mr. Vasilko.
Mike Vasilko, 2728 Reese Avenue, Evanston. I'm a supporter of the Varsity Theater renovation. I guess one brief question, I couldn't find any of this material online before tonight's meeting. I'm hoping it's going to be posted on the website at some point in the near future. Also very curious, though, about, I'm happy to hear, actually, that city funds probably will not be needed for this project, but I would be curious to see if in your report there's some criteria for the financing, how you spell it out, and how you came to that conclusion that there's actually going to be no requirement for city funding. I think that's pretty important and great news to hear. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Risky?
Had to come in a bag. Tonight I want to talk about insourcing again. I want to start out with the assumption, which I think is very safe. Do we know the cost of any employee here? Now, I'm going to use the example, of course, of this whole issue of the roadkill, but I think it has to be applicable to other issues. The city, at one point, the city was looking at selling out service to Lincolnwood. It never really made it to the council. But it has to be, the same idea has to take effect. The charge there was $35. And if we assume an employee might be making $50,000, that's about $24 an hour of salary. If we assume some reasonable multiplier, and that would be in the employee's salary and benefits and overhead, and the other things that are going on here, because all employees are supported by other employees of the city, could have a multiplier 1.5 to 2 times that employee's salary. And this well would exceed the $35. And if you throw in the cost of gas and a truck and all this other things, I would say you could well be over 50% of the cost. The issue, though, of course, is not just the roadkill issue. It's this whole idea of insourcing that the city wants to do. And I think city staff needs to start to prove what are the real cost of these employees if they're going to do this. And that's really my issue, that the city is not establishing real cost. And if you don't do that and you start to enter in these agreements, then we taxpayers would subsidize other cities. And I mean, the argument is we're trying to create goodwill or we're trying to do this and that. It's really not making a lot of sense. So I think as taxpayers here need to have a fair analysis of what's going on here rather than what I would call a bunch of just numbers created by staff that don't make any sense. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. Several questions came to mind after I saw the video for Call of the Wards for the last council meeting, wherein one of the council members commented on the Kendall matter. Isn't Call of the Wards intended for announcement of events rather than for self-praise? Wouldn't it have been more productive to ask Northwestern about its plans for Royce Moore before ramming through the decision on Kendall? Now, nowhere in the city code can I find any such entity as a by right re-subdivision, and never has the council nor its lawyer cited any authority for such a concept. I respectfully demand that the council state these authorities clearly and forthrightly so that the public can understand the basis for that decision. The relevant city code section 1413.1 or 413.1 at sequentes that I find does not confer a right upon an applicant for a subdivision. The idea that this process is by right also fails in logic. If we have the right to do something, why would we need the council's permission to exercise that right? Don't we get parking stickers and beach tokens without asking the council's permission? The fact that this matter was before the council means that it is not by right. Instead, the citizens have the right to have their concerns addressed by the council as part of the process. The repeated claim of the by right idea without citation to any authority served only to prejudice the citizens by convincing them that they don't have any rights. Is it any surprise that people who were told by their trusted elected officials that they have no rights at all chose to stay home and complain to their neighbors instead of address this council? For the first time at the last council meeting, it was alleged without any probative evidence that a majority approve of the council's decision. Similar claims of popularity were made by various tin horn dictators. Does that make them more credible? Even if the claim was true, it does not explain why the neighbors' concerns that are based upon law, science, zoning, tax contentions, and logic are ignored and remain completely unanswered by the council. No legitimate reasons were ever given for closed-door meetings excluding the public, endangering innocent children, and killing defenseless trees. If the majority agrees to endanger the minority, is the council's answer of, unfortunately that happens, acceptable? Wasn't there a time when the majority enslaved the minority and claimed legitimacy? The rezoning to R1 has nothing to do with the current council's decision because it was passed in 2006 as part of the prior ordinance 85006 by the previous council. The zoning change and the plan development share identical recitals of fact and are part of the same ordinance. So a reading of that ordinance supports the contention that the zoning change to R1 was made solely for the plan development and not for any separate and independent reason. This council's recent decision to dispense with the plan development without making separate findings of fact or citations to authorities regarding the R1 zoning change undermines and potentially jeopardizes the R1 zoning amendment. Now, at the last council meeting, Madam Mayor suggested to one of my neighbors to ask Mr. Schneider about traffic safety. When we spoke with him, he told us that he would gladly do and would have done a traffic analysis if any council member had simply asked. But the council never asked for his expert opinion, choosing instead to continue ignoring the neighbors' traffic safety concerns and avoiding any scientific inquiry. In conclusion, endangering young children and other pedestrians and voting to kill defenseless trees for no reason are not worthy of commendation. Instead, such actions call for the most vehement condemnation. Good evening.
Thank you. That concludes public comment. Alderman Rainey, could we have the consent agenda?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The consent agenda as follows. We request your approval of the minutes of the regular council meeting of April 12, 2011. The Administration and Public Works Committee is met, and we request your approval of the payroll through April 10, the amount of $2,433,087.78. We ask you approve the City of Evanston bills for the year 2011 through April 26 in the amount of $3,934,940.21. The committee requests your approval of a one-year extension of the contract for water meter and meter reading equipment with Badger Meters, Inc. in the amount of $26,845.50. The committee also requests your approval for a purchase for distribution system valves for the water department to East Jordan Iron Works in the amount of $20,063.83. Also in that purchase is fire hydrants, and that purchase goes to HD Supply Water Works in the amount of $58,033. We request your approval for a sole source purchase for street light power centers. This award goes to XL Limited in the amount of $99,354. They are the sole distributor and fabricator of the standard City of Evanston street light power centers. We ask your approval also of a list of 9 general contractors to be pre-qualified to bid on the 2011 Comprehensive Parking Garage Repair Project. Funding will be provided by the 2011 Capital Improvement Program with a budget of $2,100,000. This is through the Parking Fund. We ask your approval also for a payment to the 2011 Fire and Public Work membership fees in the amount of $25,042. This is for training for the Fire Department and Public Works Department. The Resolution 19R11 is an annual resolution and relates to prevailing wage for public works projects. We ask your approval of this resolution in order to comply with the provisions of the Illinois Prevailing Wage Act. It is for action. The committee asks your approval for the sale of surplus fleet vehicles. This is for introduction, and we recommend approval of an introduction for the sale at Obanoff auction of various city-owned vehicles that are no longer in service. The next item, A6, is off the committee agenda, is off the council agenda, and will be addressed by the committee chair. Next is Resolution 27R11. Which establishes that the Illinois Liquor Control Commission, let me figure this out here, establishing that all Illinois Control Commission review or appeal of all orders or actions taken by the local liquor control commissioner of the City of Evanston shall be made on the official record made before the commissioner. In other words, just let me explain briefly. All commission meetings will be on the record, and therefore any appeal or reviews will be based on the record made at that meeting. Next, moving right along to Planning and Development Committee. Approval of a sidewalk cafe for Jimmy John's at 1729 Sherman Avenue is requested by the Planning and Development Committee. We also ask your approval for a sidewalk cafe for Bar Louie at 1520 Sherman Avenue. Ordinance 31011 is for introduction and amends Section 413.1 of the City Code, approval of plats, and ensures that all plat approvals conform with all applicable ordinances of the city, and also assured of the construction and sequencing of the infrastructure necessary to support the proposed subdivision. This is for introduction. Madam Mayor, with that, this concludes the consent agenda, and I move approval.
Second. Thank you. Seeing no lights, City Clerk, would you call the roll?
Alderman Grover.
Aye.
Alderman Rainey. Aye. Alderman Burris. Aye. Alderman Fisk.
Aye.
Alderman Braithwaite.
Aye.
Alderman Nguyen.
Aye.
Alderman Wilson.
Aye.
Alderman Tindem. Aye. 8-0.
8-0, the consent agenda is passed. Alderman Rainey, were you chairing Administration and Public Works?
Yes. Madam Mayor, the only item off our agenda was Ordinance 67010, which is for introduction. However, we're holding it in committee, and I would like to, this has to do with the disposable carry-out bag ordinance. And I would like to defer to the initiator of the ordinance, Alderman Burris, to explain going forward.
Alderman Burris?
I thank you, Alderman Rainey. We've held it in committee, and we're going to be bringing it back with many revisions. Alderman Rainey has suggested, instead of doing a tax, actually eliminating the bags altogether in Evanston. So we're going to have meetings with the business community and get more input on. And I'm sorry that that was not done. Previously, I thought that we had more outreach to the business community than happened, so I apologize to the business community about that. So we'll be coming back to us. We'd like input, and please, if you know anybody that has information that they want to share with us about this, it would be great to hear. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you, Alderman Rainey, and Planning and Development is no report. So we are at 8:36 at Call of the Wards. Alderman Grover.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I guess I'll be sure to mention that tomorrow after school, beginning at 3:45, the ETHS branch of the NAACP is having a peace march and rally. The entire community is invited and, in fact, encouraged to attend and march with our students. And I want to thank everyone who helped me with the Distracted Driving Summit 2 weeks ago. I think it was very interesting. I owe big thanks to Adelita Hernandez, who helped me coordinate, Eric Palmer, who worked his magic to get the word out, Tom Moore from the Evanston Police Department, Sergeant Moore, who was one of my expert panelists and did a really great job, and Sam Patinio, who is the Director of Safety at the high school, who was our very able host and made everything much easier there. Bill Stafford, who also smoothed the way to hold the summit at ETHS. And I'm forgetting someone. The ETHS student whose name I forget, who designed the flyer for us. And I'm sure there was someone else, so I apologize if I've forgotten you. But thank you to everyone who helped me put it on. And thank you to all my co-hosts and sponsors for the summit. Thank you for your support, and for those who attended. Alderman Nguyen, Alderman Holmes, Alderman Tendam, for learning something about the fallacies of multitasking behind the wheel. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Alderman Rainey.
No report, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Alderman Burris.
I want to announce that the Evanston Earth Month celebration, sponsored by the Citizens for a Greener Evanston, will take place on May 1st between 2 and 5 p.m. at Beth Emmett Free Synagogue on 1224 Dempster. So please come out. Also, I want to remind everyone that the Women's Club of Evanston hosts a Dream Delivered prom boutique. So if you are a senior girl at ETHS, May 2nd through 4th, if you want to go to Women's Club of Evanston and get free prom dresses, shoes, bags, jewelry, you can do so. And if any parents want to encourage their girls to do that, that'd be great. Please contact Lisa Sherry at the Women's Club. And finally, congratulations to Maggie and Dean Noonan, who own Wine Styles in downtown Evanston. They're celebrating their 3rd anniversary, and in an economy like this, when a business stays open for 3 years, we have to celebrate, and no better way to celebrate than Wine Styles. So they have an open house this Friday from 6 to 8 p.m. at 1741 Sherman. Please stop by and say hi to Maggie and Dean. They've been fantastic to work with and just wonderful people. So please stop by.
Thank you. Alderman Fisk.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I want to make sure that the invitation that goes out to small business owners regarding the bag situation, whether it's a tax or not, go out to all of our small business owners, both in the downtown and in our neighborhood shopping districts. So those of you who have the districts in your wards, if you'd notify your small business people, that would be a great help. I want to just report briefly on the NU City Committee meeting from last week, where our focus mainly was on the future of Royce Moore School and the use of it by Northwestern University. The university continues to say that they will abide by the allowed uses under the zoning ordinance, and those pretty much in focus seem to be either a dormitory, fraternities or sororities, or faculty, staff, administrative offices. Obviously, we want to establish a dialogue between the neighborhood and the university so that the university can hear the concerns and also the recommendations and hopes that the neighborhood has for this piece of property, and so we're looking forward to that. But I would just like to invite all of you who have a concern about the interaction of both large-scale university uses and your neighborhoods to attend as well. So when we have a meeting date set up, we'll let you know. Thank you.
Thank you. Alderman Braithwaite.
Just really quick, I'd like to thank the city manager and also the mayor who attended our ward meeting 2 weeks ago on April 14th. as well if you could pass along to the city staff members who were there late in the evening to be a part of that. As well, I'd like to thank the residents that were there. I think we had over about 100 folks who showed up for our first ward meeting, and
more than 100.
Okay, more than 100, and we had some wonderful feedback, and so I'm definitely looking forward to continuing that process and hosting another meeting, and you'll hear about those details later. In addition to that, I will also be attending the Peace Rally on Tuesday at 3:45, so I'm looking forward to attending that, and hopefully as many of you that are able to attend to support our students at ETHS will definitely appreciate that. As well, this Thursday from 6 to 9 here at the city, there's an upcoming seminar, How to Win Business with the City, being planned by the Economic Development Department that I'll also plan on attending. So that's it.
Thank you. Alderman Nguyen.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I wanted to report that we had a very successful third ward meeting with about 80 people, not quite 100. I wanted to thank the city manager for coming and also Adelita Hernandez for doing just a remarkable job. It's amazing when you don't have to flyer the neighborhood yourself on foot, what happens. And also to thank all the third ward residents who came out and participated. Thank you.
Thank you. Alderman Wilson.
No report.
Thank you. Alderman Tendem.
No report. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Is there a motion?
I have a motion.
Alderman Wilson.
Pursuant to 5 Illinois compiled statutes, ILCS 120/2A, I move that the City Council convene into executive session to discuss agenda items regarding personnel, workers' compensation, and minutes. These agenda items are permitted subjects to be considered in executive session and are enumerated exceptions under the Open Meetings Act. These exceptions are 5 ILCS 120/2A, C1, C2, and C21.
City Clerk. It's been moved and seconded. City Clerk, would you call the roll?
Alderman Grover. Aye. Alderman Rainey. Aye. Alderman Burris. Aye. Alderman Fisk. Aye. Alderman Braithwaite. Aye. Alderman Nguyen. Aye. Alderman Wilson.
Aye.
Alderman Tindem. Aye. 8-0.
8-0, the motion passes.